2 months ago, I decided to leave the UK for good. In fact, when I left the UK, my business was making nothing and I also had no idea what direction I was going in. 2 months later, I've collected 24k cash and I believe it all comes down to the fact that I left the UK. There is currently the greatest max exodus of millionaires out of the UK that we've ever seen. And there's headline after headline after headline that talks about why the UK is not the right place to grow and build a business. From my own experiences and the experiences of others, I could not agree with that sentiment more. And I believe that if you're watching this and you're in the UK looking to build your own online business, then you are literally making life 20 times harder for yourself by staying there. And that's a bold statement, and I'm going to back that up with 3 reasons right now why I believe your first move in creating your online business should be to get on the first plane out of the UK. And we're on the balcony for the first reason why leaving the UK contributed to my early success in online business. And that is because of the inherent negativity in a micro sense and a macro UK sense that exists towards entrepreneurs in the UK. Because leaving the UK was the only reason that I was able to scale to that 10k a month mark, because I was able to escape the micro negativity that exists towards founders. Because you'll know that if you're growing something in the UK, every single time you go and see a friend or family, you're met with the exact same comments of, oh, why don't you just go and get a proper job? Or aren't you a little bit worried about the instability? Or are you going to start selling courses? Because I was sick of defending my plan or justifying why I wasn't becoming an accountant at the Big Four like every other middle class uni graduate. And then you compare that with the attitude of the people in somewhere like Bali, where, for example, this weekend, me and a group of strangers rented a villa and spoke about how we could all build our businesses to 100k a month and above. Everyone was super positive about other people's businesses and no problem was too hard to solve. And after that mastermind weekend, it became even more clear to me that I don't want to go back to the UK now, because I want to stay surrounded by people who support my aspirations and not people who find the next problem in it. And that micro negativity that you experience means that growing a business in the UK is like rowing a boat upstream. And it is the reason why I did my record month literally the month after I left the UK and surrounded myself with the right type of people. And it always helps that you get to escape the miserable weather as well. But the other micro negativity that you'll see in the UK is what happens when people talk about people who are already successful. And if you went to a Russell Group uni in the UK and you know anyone who's had any sort of success, then you'll be very familiar with the exact reputation arc that that person goes through. It first starts off with people questioning why the hell they're doing what they're doing. They become the laughing stock of the group and people always take the piss out of what they're doing. Then after a bit of time, people start feeling sorry for them. They see the hours and hours that these people are putting in to something that is making them no money. People kind of group around them with a sense of pity. But then at some point, they start seeing a little bit of success and people celebrate that. People are like, oh, good on them. They were working really hard. Congrats on them for receiving a bit of money or getting a few views. It's easy to support the little guy who's had a little bit of success. But then they actually start seeing real success. They start making thousands, not hundreds of pounds, and they start getting serious traction on social media. And all of a sudden, that celebration towards them turns to jealousy. People in the UK will look to find any reason why they got lucky or why they cheated their way to that success. Did you hear that person is really like this? Or did you hear they just got given this when they were a kid? Or did you hear that they just got given this by their friend? Or did you hear that they got that lucky opportunity? Immediately, that same person that people supported and felt sorry for is that person who cheated the system and got lucky and is not like everyone else. I've seen that with countless other successful friends, and I've also experienced it myself. And that is the exact reason why we've got the greatest amount of millionaires leaving the UK right now. And that if you know anyone who's been successful, the first thing they do is book a one-way trip out of the UK. People just don't want to accept the negativity that comes with success. And it's much more enjoyable to move to a place like America, to move to a Dubai or a Bali, where people want to work with successful people, not criticize them for what they've done. And you also find this on a macro scale in the UK. And it all comes down to what I call the scarcity syndrome. And there is a theory that because of the fact we're on an island, we're all used to hundreds of years ago competing over resources. If you've done well and I haven't done well, then my internal belief system, because we're on an island, tells me that you must have stolen a resource off me. This belief is still widely inherent within UK culture, that if someone is doing well, it feels like they must have stolen something off us. And that is why we have such a scarcity problem, unlike bigger countries like the US, because of the fact that anyone who has done well must have stuffed us over to get there. And this creates scarcity, which leads to negativity, which means that as a culture and an environment in the UK, success brings on negativity. And I want to be in environments of abundance where if I am successful, people see me as someone that they want to spend time with and work with, because the abundance of opportunities will come to them as well. And that is the first reason on a micro and a macro level as to why I felt like I had to leave the UK, because I did not want to be surrounded by people with scarcity mindsets who would just give me everyday negativity about what I was doing. And for the second reason why I know that I've done better because of leaving the UK, let's head to the beach. And the second reason why building your business in the UK is just 100 times harder is because of how lonely it is. is. When Chris Williamson spoke about the lonely chapter of entrepreneurship, honestly, that cut deep. But at the same time, I solved all of my lonely problems by just moving to Bali. While you're in the UK, building that business is one of the lonely experiences you can have. While all your friends are getting pissed and complaining about their managers, you're sitting there worrying about where your next client is going to come from or how the hell you're going to build your business to the point where you can go full time on it. And I knew this was the case, but when I got on the plane from London to Bali, my decision was immediately validated by a couple called Christian and Millie. I remember being sat in cafes in London when my business wasn't doing well, and I honestly just felt like the whole world was against me. The exact same feeling was happening in Bali. I turned to my right and had a chat with Christian and Millie about the problem that I was having. They immediately told me about the hundreds of times in their own business that they had had the exact same problems and gave me actual step-by-step solutions to fix it. I immediately felt 100 times better and actually was able to action some very useful advice that I got with them. Having spent 9 months in the UK trying to find people like Christian and Millie and finding them almost instantly while being in Bali, it validated my decision and made it very clear to me why leaving the UK and getting to places like Bali was so important for building my business. And I'm not saying that problem is exclusive to the UK, but you'll know that people in general in the UK are very 9 to 5 focused, and everyone is on that ladder to get their best corporate job. People's problems are so different to the problems you have when you're setting up your business that you can almost get so lonely that you decide it's not worth it. Whereas in places like Dubai, like Bali, like Cape Town, there is so many people doing the same thing that it feels like that shared struggle. And if you are aspirational about building your own business and being in control of your time and your money and where you want to live, then people in the UK just won't understand the things you have to do to get to that end goal. And it wasn't until I left the UK that I realized that there are places in the world where I can feel super comfortable with the problems that I have and that I'm not alone in this journey. Yes, I'm not saying you can't build from London, but again, it's another reason why it just makes it 100 times harder if you're not willing to get on the plane and surround yourself with individuals who are all on the same mission. And the last reason why I believe leaving the UK is fundamentally important to your success in online business is because of the inherent drinking culture. And you might think, well, there isn't a drinking problem, or you might think, well, if there is a drinking problem, how does that have anything to do with me and building my online business? But if you grew up in the UK, you'll know just how embedded alcohol actually is into our culture. And if you want to grow a business 10K a month plus, then quitting alcohol is the single best thing you can do. Those precious hours on the weekends and in the evenings where you're trying to get content out there and help the clients that you are working with are hard enough to find as there is, let alone spending half your weekend hungover and not being able to think properly until Tuesday. And the problem with the UK is those opportunities to drink are absolutely everywhere. Every Thursday to Sunday, there's another opportunity to get absolutely ruined, and it's very hard to actually put your head down and stick to something. In fact, alcohol is so embedded in the UK culture that you're literally seen as weird if you don't drink. Can you imagine applying that same logic to other substances? Isn't it weird that you have to drink? Isn't it weird that to spend time with your closest friends, you supposedly have to drink more liquid courage to actually enjoy yourself? And if you subscribe to that whole Monday to Friday, 9 to 5 lifestyle, then drinking at the weekends fits nicely into that life. But if you want to do something a little different and build a career in life that you actually look forward to waking up to, then I believe that the best bet is just to get rid of that environment completely. Yes, it is possible to exist in London and not subscribe to the middle-class drinking obsession, but you end up living your life in pure misery where all you do is say no to everything every weekend and get labelled as the boring friend. Whereas where I live in Bali, if you go out later than 9 p.m. or if you turn up to an event hungover the next morning, you are the weird one. People are living this healthy lifestyle because it helps promote their business. And that alone has been a humongous factor in the success of my business because I'm around people that promote a lifestyle of working hard on myself and my business and not giving in to short-term dopamine temptations. And that's the third and final reason why my business has come on so much while leaving the UK. And I fundamentally believe that if you're serious about building within the UK, the best thing you can do is get on the plane and leave. Thanks.